Okay, so this is the introduction. I want.
06, you actually old, bro.
Okay, well, this is the introduction. This is like a little introduction because I wanted to talk about. I shortened some of the questions. I keep them on my iPad. You'll see them in a lot of videos. I'm not taking notes, but I have the questions so I can remember them and say them. The questions were long. The questions were like long and they were hard to like add in the conversation. So I shortened them to like their core. So the first question is: most couples say they are married because they love their spouse. What do they think is love? That is, let your informants tell you their definition of love. What will make love as they define it last so that there will be successful or stable marriages. Stating this differently, what are the keys to a happy relationship or marriage? I asked this and I shortened this into what is love and what makes love last in marriages. And I think in 2 out of 3 of the interviews, I said, what is love to you? Which I feel like allows them to answer it easier. And then what do you think makes love last? For a lot of them, for some people, it was like, I remember my last interview was commitment and whatnot. But, I shortened it to what is love? What is love to you specifically, so that they can really personify that question and answer it in a reasonable manner. And then I asked what makes love last in marriages, specifically to highlight the fact that we're studying marriages. Second, what do they think about divorce, cohabitation, and single parenthood, and the illegitimacy in American communities? For example, the problems of violence in teen pregnancy are beginning to manifest themselves in a kind of nihilistic destruction in the ghetto as reflective of lost hope, low self-esteem, and the breakdown of the family. Are we expecting African American community today regarding the family, marriages and couples, same compared to when they were growing up? If not, why? I shortened that question. I said it differently every time, but the real like crux of it was, how do you feel about the breaking down of the family in the Black community? I specified to the Black community as like the African American community because I feel like that highlights like the demographic here. So how do you feel about the breaking down of the family in the Black community, and do you think they are different from when you were growing up? Sorry. How are they different when they were growing up? But a lot of times when I said like the dismantling, like the divorce rates, teen pregnancy and whatnot, and I would sprinkle in everything from the original paragraph so that they understood when I said the breakdown, they didn't just mean like divorce, but also like separation and everything involved. Okay. Then there is question 3. What are the causes or origins of these social problems? Are they largely moral problems, as claimed to be by some critics, or are they because religious meaning no longer permeates the everyday life of the individual? Depending on the demographic, depending on the person and the age, because they were all above 35 as per like the guidelines, but some of them were like exactly 30. One of them was exactly 35. The other was like in the 40s. And then we had an older gentleman who I believe was in the 60s. I didn't ask his age, actually. I just knew he was above. But, so the way I asked this question was more so, what are the causes of these I would start with slipping in a conversation. What do you think the cause of the issues or the cause of the breakdown in the Black community are? And then I'd let them talk, and then I'd put in my own input, and then I'd say, and I quote, and do we think it has a connection to religion? Do we have a connection to like how back in the day everybody would be like go to church and God was very like within everything? I did this so that it didn't sound like I was coming from a biased point of view. Not to say the questions are inherently biased, but you can hear that that like the like religious meaning no longer permeating is implying that nowadays religion isn't as important, and maybe on average, but I feel like in a lot of places it still is. But regardless, to take out my personal feelings about the topic, I would just ask, and do you think this connects to religion in any way, shape, or form? And I didn't ask them verbatim. I wrote them down so that they could kind of flow in the conversation. So like if I started with question 1 and they answered question 2, I could just re-answer the last part of question 2 and then switch over to 3. That way we got all the questions answered, and it still keeps the flow of conversation natural. Then the last question: though there are nevertheless obstacles that we face in America because of race, what can and should be done by us African Americans to solve some of the problems facing the nuclear family and marriage in our communities. And this one I shortened very shortly to what can be done to solve some of these issues. But I didn't say it just like that. I said what can be done in the black community as black people. What can we do as a community to solve the issues of either the breakdowns, or in a lot of the interviews, I don't want to say they got derailed because that has a negative connotation. I would like to say they ventured off into open discussion. So what ended up happening is we would talk about this, talk about that, and then in one or two of them, it wasn't like, oh, the destruction of the household is the big issue, but it's more like a metamorphosis of the household or whatever it may be. I framed it so that what can we do to either aid this process or aid this shift, or what can we do to bring back to what we used to have when it came to like familial morals. At the end, I'm also gonna do a little like end up recap of like my thoughts on different interviews and how I felt about each participant. But thank you. Enjoy. Yeah, I guess enjoy. Okay. Okay. So the first question is like, what do you define as love, and what do you think makes like strong love when it comes to marriages?
How would I define love?
Yep.
It's a very complicated word. And it's one that's been attempted to be defined for ages. Poets written poems about it. Songwriters have written songs about it. Philosophers come up with ideas about it. I don't think anybody really has a good definition for love.
Yeah, I guess then like, what do you like? I guess when like in terms of marriage, what do you feel like your definition of love is?
I would say that it's an emotional connection between two people that defies being put into words.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and then the second question, we've been talking a lot, we've been talking in class about how like the traditional family structure of like, whether it be divorce or just they were never together to begin with, especially in the black community.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that first off? And do you think it's like different, it's gotten worse or better since when you were growing up?
It's no question that it's gotten a lot worse in terms of family structure. And I'm of the opinion that it's one of the root causes of a lot of the social issues that exist in our country and in our culture today. The foundation of our society, of any strong society, I believe, is the family, marriage and the family. And because that has been pretty much destroyed in the United States. And because of that, we're suffering with a lot of other social issues.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess connecting to that, what do you think the causes or breakdowns of it are? Like the causes of like these breakdowns and like the breakdown of the family structure? And do you think it connects to like the lack of religion in the household? Because we've been talking a lot in class about like how religion really like shapes us as people, whether it be like socialization and how religion affects our outlook on the world. Do you think like, I know nowadays, especially with young people, they don't go to church as much. Do you think the lack of religion in the household is affecting this like the structure of marriage?
That's an excellent question. And to me, a very simple answer. And the answer is yes. No question in my mind that the lack of religion being taught and practiced in the United States of America unquestionably has caused, again, a lot of the social and cultural problems that exist today. And I'm of the opinion that it's really just the beginning. It's going to get a lot worse as time goes on, because even though religion is not being practiced today as much as it was in my day, back in the day, we're going to see, and this is just one little thing, but we're going to see a steady decline and a deeper decline in our culture. You'll see it. You'll see the effects of it in family structure. You'll see the effects of it in social change, in criminality. I think it will impact every facet of our society in a negative way.
Yeah, because I know, even though my parents weren't together, but they always had like a good relationship. But one of the big things is back in DC, I went to the AME Zion Church legitimately all my life.
Mm.
My dad went there, and my dad, one of my closest friends, who's 2 years older than me, Patrick, we met in church, and our parents met with my grandma in church, and they would go on trips. And I still do like Sundays, like virtual Sunday school and whatnot with the church. And I feel like bigger because like obviously I believe in God and Christianity and whatnot, but I'm a spiritual person. I'm not very like religious in like the traditional sense.
Okay.
Like I read my Bible, I have my own Bible that I got from the church, but I feel like one of the best parts about church, besides like the gospel, is really the community that it fosters. Because some of my majority of the people my age and even the people older than me there always look out for me. Like when it came, like they gave me a scholarship, obviously that helps out, but more than that, they wrote down advice. They talked to me about going to schools and being this, and I feel like they set me up in a really good position to like get away, to like when I got away from home, I'm fine and I can be like grounded who I am. And also on top of that, it's just built wonderful connections. Miss Marilyn is one of my grandmother's closest friends, and whenever I go down there after church, we'll always go get breakfast, and we always talk about life, anything, and I feel like that was one of my favorite things. Even now, growing up, is whenever we go to church, we go to Denny's or IHOP after, and we alternate every weekend. And sometimes we bring Patrick, or sometimes we bring Miss Marilyn, or sometimes we go to the church, or we have like a church like breakfast or after brunch in the church. And I feel like that is definitely missing, because I know my friend that goes here, Jaden, he also has that like similar relationship where a lot of his friends or like cousins he grew up around in the church, and I feel like that builds like a second family, so that even in situations where one parent is not present or they're not there or they're separated, you can still fill that void with like the church family, because I feel like the church can uplift a lot of shortcomings even in the household.
That's well said. Have you seen a change from the time that you were a kid up until your age now? What kind of changes have you noticed?
Obviously COVID like it had a terrible effect on like the amount of people that would come up, but even with the virtual church, like we had a decline in members. But on top of all of that, the like biggest supporters and the people who would really advocate for like fix, like our building is like going down, and my friend's dad, Patrick's dad, does maintenance on the church and cooks for the church, and so the building is getting dilapidated, but all of the people who were really there, like fundraising and like spearheading, getting money and like helping the church, are getting too old to be as active as they once were.
Okay.
And so now it's time for like the next generation down to step up, and that's happening with some people. Like my dad is always available to help the church. He cooks for them as well and will volunteer whenever. My friends' parents do the same. They do a lot for the church and they run youth events. And Willie, who went to A&T, who is maybe 4 or 5 years older than me, is in there. But I feel like for a lot of the younger kids, they kind of either not even just go away and don't come back, but just feel like just don't show up. Because I'm not gonna say I'm the perfect example. Like I go every Sunday, but if I'm there and my Sundays are free, and my grandma's like, "Oh, you want to come to church?" I'm gonna come.
Okay.
And whenever there's events, she lets me know, and I try and help out with whether that be youth events. Like I used to sing the children's choir when I was younger.
Okay.
Yeah, I make sure to help out in events. And then there's Mr. Willie, who I grew up with, honestly. He's 4 years older than me. He runs youth events, and so whenever me and Patrick are both in town, we always go. We had a dinner, we had like a Bible study, we had a financial literacy class in the church, and I feel like he is like the shining example because he's bringing back the stuff that my dad and I even had when I was younger.
Wow. Okay.
Because he honestly, he's really amazing. He'll just text me and be like, "Oh, we're having this and this." Like when the Black Panther movie dropped, he fundraised and he took all the kids in the church to go see the movie on release date. He brought in some speakers. We brought in some speakers and our pastor who had experience in like the financial background. We had a financial literacy where they explained credit, paying your bills on time and whatnot. Yeah, no, and I've had a lot of that elsewhere, but even so, it was still so wonderful to hear it again because you can never learn too much from experts in the field. And I feel like the fact that we have experts in the church community, I feel like we just have to come together and call on them again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's outstanding, man.
Yeah, and that kind of like leads into the last question. Is like, I obviously there's not like an easy like, oh, we just do this and it gets back, but like, I guess how can we get back to where like the family is as strong as it was? Obviously, the fact that it was broken up here, it trickles down, and we're having broken families or broken children or children raising children in a sense, because we have people who were not ready to have children, not ready to get in these relationships. They broke up, and now the children are facing this, and now they have to kind of break that cycle. Like, what, like, either tips or just like, what do you think as like a community of like Black people we would have to do to not fully rectify, but try and at least get back to where we want to be?
That's hard for me to answer because I'm of the opinion that we're not going to get back to it now. How, what can we do? And when what can we do as a Black community to try to
either get back, or obviously we're not going to get back to where we once were, but I feel like either not get worse or get like, because obviously time passes and like the family dynamics change, but I feel like more so than like in a marriage sense, I feel like just in a sense of having a good like family, because back in the day, back in my grandma and my dad, we leaned on family.
Yep.
And I feel like what actions like as like a community we could do to like either get back to that or like try and slow, even if we're going in like a downward trajectory, how can we slow that?
Okay, I hear your question clearly. It's just that I don't have a good answer for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't. And I'm a positive person in terms of outlook and belief, but it's and I'm a man of strong faith. But I believe that Satan has such a grip on society, on our society now. And I believe that God has allowed and is allowing America to experience what it's really like to withdraw from Him and to ignore Him. It's like God. It's like in the Old Testament when Israel wanted a king, and all of the surrounding nations had a king, and Israel wanted a king. And God said, "Well, if that's what you want, all right, I'm going to let you have that, and let you see what happens when you have it." Yeah. And so Israel went and got him a king, and then the king put their boots on their neck, and I think that's what's happening to America now. That it's not going to get better because God is just going to allow America to experience what it's like to be without His favor. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, man, no, this has been interesting to me. It's very revealing to me. It's encouraging to hear a young man like yourself be that interested in. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
It's very refreshing.
Yeah, because obviously, like, this is an assignment, but I feel like more than, like, you're the first person I've interviewed, and I have a few lined up. But
Okay.
I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy hearing perspectives,
Mhm.
and especially coming from, like, my mom and my dad. They were never married. They're separated. My mom's married, and my dad is, I think, he's about to be married. But
Okay.
even more so than that, it's good hearing other perspectives because I know, especially like when talking about this in class, I know how difficult that can be, especially when in the beginning they didn't have the best relationship. But as it got better, I could physically feel, see, and even when I was younger, I could like understand when the relationship was getting better, even though they weren't together and they were no longer in love as they once were.
Right.
Them having an amicable relationship really has improved everything. Like as I got older, their relationship got better, and you could tell because opposed to being two opposing forces, they started working together.
Okay.
Even though she lives in Delaware, I live in DC. I take the train up and down and whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
You look forward to getting married and having a family one day?
Yeah, I definitely. I love it. I never had siblings growing up. I was an only child. The only siblings I have siblings now because my mom and my stepdad Perry, they fostered children and then they finally adopted them very recently.
Good.
And so now I have a little sister and a little brother who are both 4. I love them to death. I like children. They annoy me sometimes, but I do enjoy them. Yeah, I do enjoy them. I've done a bunch. Back in DC, my grandma ran like I love my grandma. She does a bunch of ripping and running. Even to this day, she's 70 something now, and she can't sit down. She got her hip surgery, sat down for a month, got back up.
Wow.
Or no, knee surgery. She got her second knee right before I left for school, right before I left to come here.
Okay.
Because we moved back in with her so we could take care of her, and then she got back, and now she's back ripping and running. She does Ward 5. She's for the Drug Free Coalition.
Yeah.
So I've been working either making like Cahoots PowerPoints and whatnots for her Zoom meetings, or I would go down to like the dwellings, like the housing projects, and help kids with their homework. I made up science activities. So I'm excited to the idea of having kids and having a family is really.
How many do you think you'd like to have?
Probably like 1 or 2.
Okay.
1 or 2. But that idea is beautiful, but the only like negative is the state, like obviously the state of America. Because obviously I would like to have a family and kids, but I don't want to be selfish and bring them into a place that is not, the best, especially with the trajectory, how the government's looking, how it's looking like it's going to be the people versus the government in a sense, and how everything's going. So yes, I would like to have kids and a wife, like a family, but also on top of that, I have to think about when is the right time, if there is going to be a right time, because I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to put like, me having a kid and then having a kid in a situation where that kid is not going to have the absolute best life. Obviously, there's going to be troubles in any time period, any time, but especially right now where we are, I don't feel like whether it be the economy, racism, any of these big issues, especially the government. I don't think now. Luckily, I'm young enough, but I don't think right now is the best time. So, yeah. But,
So you think things are gonna get better?
I think they're gonna get worse, and then they might get better. I'm hopeful because
What do you think would make it better?
I you it's really just, I know there's a lot of people with similar mindsets. It's I feel like I have faith in my generation to a degree to get tired of taking the like not like abuse, yeah, it's abuse. Getting tired of taking the abuse, whether that be from like the government or like the 1%, because right now America, the government is not what it was built to be. It's not for the people. It's for the 1%. It's for the very small minority of people.
You're right.
And especially being in DC, where I've gone to a few protests. I've done this. I've done that. I've been to I've seen it. I feel like, especially with my generation, we are tired of dealing with this, because luckily I have like a house in my family that we own. But for a lot of people in Generation Z and other people, home ownership is like a pipe dream, is a big goal.
For sure.
When back in the day, that was just like the natural progression of things.
That's right.
So I feel like, especially right now, we're at that boiling point where something has to change, whether that be, I don't even know, but something has to change, and we can only endure. Even though our forefathers didn't look like me or you, they weren't black, but in a similar sense, they endured enough abuse and disrespect, and eventually it reached that boiling point.
Yep.
Where we had to do something. Because right now it's a lot of people, when you ask them like, oh, are you Democratic or Republican or whatever, blah, 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 they're like, oh, I'm not really political. We are in a day and age where you can't not be political. You have to. Being not political is insane, especially when there's vast extremes. I'm not saying the two-party system is flawed. I'm not saying pick a party, but I'm just saying you have to be informed.
Okay.
And we're getting to that point where people can't just not change or not act. They have to do something.
Okay.
So I feel like we're getting to the point where you have to act. You have to pick a side. You have to do something. And I feel like even though it is a very hard and trying, and it will probably be a terrible time, eventually we'll come out on the other side.
That's an interesting perspective. And I agree with you. The thing that I observed being a dorm director and seeing this generation, the thing that I noticed that has changed so much from my generation is the lack of respect for authority and for one another. Your generation, in my observation, is so selfish. So it feels so entitled.
Yeah.
But it's not your fault.
Yeah.
It's the parents. It's the way that parents, or the lack of parenting, that goes on now.
Yeah.
Parents have allowed children these days, allowed your generation,
Yeah.
what they call, to give them privileges and give them opportunities that our generation didn't have. But in so doing, they robbed them of teaching them the value of responsibility.
Yeah.
Parents don't teach real values anymore.
Yeah.
They don't teach principles anymore. They give.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, they have really robbed your generation of learning what it takes in order to build character.
Yeah, no. Because you see it, you see it a lot in schools. When it like back when my dad and my grandmother were growing up, if you were getting bad grades or something happened, it was your fault. It was your fault for doing that.
Mhm.
But a lot of times you have parents coming up to the school cussing out
That's-
teachers.
that-
Yeah, cussing
great
out
example.
teachers. Yeah, cussing out teachers for no reason.
Yeah.
Never has that happened. I wasn't that lucky or unlucky. Let a teacher call home, except for very few circumstances.
Yeah.
Except for the one or two where the teacher was actually in the wrong.
Yeah.
They're looking at me. Why are you doing this?
Okay.
It's
okay.
not.
That's it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, you see it all the time. And then another thing is, being in DC, we have the train, we have the metro, and I was very, I'd be all over town and whatnot, but it was progressive. Like if you want to take like a literal example, my curfew extended as I got older,
Okay.
and not even just as I got older, as I like got better grades and did the
There
things.
you go.
And then if my grades slipped, I'd lose my dad. Like, yeah, you lose some privileges.
There you go.
My dad saying growing up was, you can have the best, most fun life you ever want. All you gotta do is do good in school.
Earn it.
Yeah, all you gotta do is do good in school.
Yeah.
But if you don't,
There you go.
yeah. So like come junior senior year where my grades are steady down, I'm still doing good.
Yeah.
I'm able to just go out and then like say, I know one time, my curfew, I think right before I turned 18, it was like, one, if he knew exactly where I was, because I had my location on my phone.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm at a party. I'm coming back. I text him, oh, the Uber's coming. I'm gonna be a little late. He's like, okay, no, it's fine. I trust you.
Okay.
You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because before I come home on time. I always tell him where I am. I let him know. And now he sends me off here, or even before I got here that summer, he just really let me. He let me be because he knew that
You had earned it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do any dumb stuff. I've learned from my mistakes.
Yeah.
I only came home late once. I came home late one time. He wasn't even bad. He was just like, see, but don't let this happen again. This
There you
is a
go.
learned lesson. We have to. You have to make sure. No, I give you an inch. You have to take an inch. You can't take more than that.
What's your dad do?
My dad. He's a chef. He caters now. He does catering, meal prep. He works in a restaurant now. He's been a chef my entire life.
Is that right?
Yeah. I've actually worked with him for like 5 years now. Since 2020, he started his the culinary project, which is like his catering meal prep. And whenever we would cater, especially Thanksgiving and Christmas,
Sure.
we'd be up to like 3 in the morning,
Oh, man.
cook. Yeah, I'd be prepping stuff, cooking stuff, packing it up, and then we take it to the car. And if there were catering
Oh, that's
events,
great, man.
yeah, and
That's
if there were
great.
catering events, I'd serve food, I'd set up, I'd pack up, we'd clean up, and then we'd go. I remember every time we'd go home, and then we just pass out. And he paid, and as I got older, as I started like actually like helping, he would pay me, yeah, very well. That's
Okay.
yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he always paid me for my time, so it felt like, and it really felt like I was earning it because we were,
Okay.
and it was really fun. I love my dad. Me and my dad, it's been me and him. He got custody of me in 3rd grade fully, so
Yeah.
it's been me and him ever since then.
Man, that's.
It's like my grandma's in DC. We always go over to her house, but it's been me and him.
Your dad's mom.
Yep. It's been me and him it's been me and him all my life. And we've just been, I love my dad.
Man, it's great to hear that.
Yeah, no.
Really
He's always been there for me. He's a reasonable guy.
Yeah. I can
As long as my grades were good, which they usually were, unless I was slacking, as long as my grades are good,
Yeah.
it was great. It was beautiful. When they weren't, that's an entirely different story.
Yeah.
Because really,
Yeah.
it's 2 things. He really only had 2 things. It was grades, obviously, because school's your job when you're under 18. That's your job. You can't work. That's your main focus. And then lying. He hated lying. The only times I ever got real like spankings or whatever was when I lied. The only time real drastic stuff happened was when I
I
lied.
mean, you lie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I haven't lied to that man in about a decade. I think maybe the last time it might have been like 4th grade, and because once a certain point it clicks. he's very reasonable with legitimate with everything else. If I just explain the situation,
Okay.
the worst he's gonna do is like, okay, well you can't
Okay.
play, you can't play your video games. I gotta take your phone. Blah 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 blah. You gotta be home by this.
Sure.
That's the worst that's gonna happen. But the stuff when the punishments get severe and when it starts getting like I can't leave the house is when I start lying.
Yep.
So especially for high school, all of high school, it's just been we talk now. He used to get mad and yell, and he got substantially better on that as I got older, and we would just talk.
Okay.
For the most part, everything could be resolved just by like a conversation and obviously a punishment if I messed something up and if I deserved it. But like no, because I remember it was winter of junior year, and we had quarters at my school in DC, and it was like second quarter. It was like second quarter, and my grade slipped. For me, my grade slipping is a 3.0. So, yeah, I got a 3.0 when that's not the standard we set in my house. 3.0 is I had honor roll for the entirety of school.
Is that right?
Yeah, for the entirety of school in general, I've had honor roll. I've never dipped below a 3.0 in any middle high school. Yeah, so
That's outstanding.
yeah, I brought home a 3.0, and he was like, I know you can do better than this. You're doing better than this, and we sat and we talked about it. He was like, okay, cool. Because one thing I love to go to the gym. I love to work out. He was like, okay, the deal is you can't go to the gym alone. We can go together because recently I got him into the gym, so we've been going a lot. But he was like, you can't go out whenever you want to go to the gym or whatnot. We can go together. But until your grades get back up, you can't do all that. And and we just talked it out. So I definitely get what you're saying. Like a lot of, especially growing up with my grandma, I always respect my elders. I respect. It's just like as long as they respect me, as long as they're respectful and they respect me, I try my best. I try my very best to respect them.
Okay.
Even when they're disrespectful, that doesn't mean disrespect them back. It's just navigate that situation differently.
Okay.
No. But thank you so much.
Man, I tell you, I enjoyed this.
So in my sociology class, we were talking about the family structures, and the first question is, what do you define as love? And what do you think makes love last in marriages?
One, I think love gives you the love gives you the ability to be adaptable. To have like an amphibious kind of cultural experience in which the amount of love that you have someone will help you be able to adapt in good and bad seasons, whether things change, whether things are old or new. All of these things add to the idea or have a framework of what it means to love someone. And I think the longevity piece of it all, I think, has to do with how far and how willing are you to go beyond um you know what some may think is enough. Like, how much do you love a person? How much are you willing to adapt to the changes of this person in order to move forward?
Okay, thank you. Question two is, how do you feel? Obviously nowadays there's a lot less like marriages, whether that be divorce or separation or just people who weren't together. How do you feel about the breaking down of the family, specifically in the Black community? And do you think it's gotten worse, or like how is it different from when you were growing up?
So like my parents were married and then later got divorced, and I think like one, I don't like the way how this question is framed because it comes from it gives a much more conservative lens, but I guess within the sociological perspective, the institution of marriage from a westernized standpoint is on the fringes and people are becoming more adept or adapting to the idea of partnerships or a multitude of micro relationships. So to answer that question, I don't think marriage, as in the westernized standard tradition, is a model that we should all be looking forward to. I think we need to reinvent norms that fit in our cultural perspective. Um, like my family grew up in West Africa, and the amount of love, my grandmother and grandfather were married for almost 65 years. And the 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 way she had to be amphibious in experiencing, children out of wedlock, um, all different kinds of strife, and why she ended up staying married, um, and why people do choose to stay married. I think we need to reframe that question. And it's not just like, oh, the way that question seems, it seems like it's an emergency, like everything's falling apart. And I think there's always an opportunity for a rebirth. Hopefully, I answered the question.
Yeah, you also kind of answered the third question, which was what was the cause of like these breakdowns as it was put, because we got these questions from like our book. But another thing, you being a very religious man, how do you feel like religion in households? Because one thing I know my teacher has talked about is like the separation of religion in households in America and how that's affecting like the family dynamic. So how do you think either like the lack of religion or like religion in the household nowadays has changed since when you were growing up?
I think we've gone from we had like when I was growing up, it was much more of a collective community experience. And I think we're going into a more individualized experience of, not building a healthy community around whatever that couple or whatever's going on. And I think that is the reason that that's going in the manner that it is because of the norms that are set around westernized religious experiences. Um, and so I hope I'm answering these questions right. I think as being a minister and is seeing this firsthand. I think it's important that we one take each individual wedding or couple or partnering in a different manner than what we traditionally have. And are you talking?
No, that's my roommate. That's all. No, my roommate.
Mute. Roommate, we're recording.
I'm muted.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we need to I think there just needs to be a reframing and a building up of the reality of what's happening, because we've always subscribed to cultural norms prescribed to us by certain communities or dominant communities that don't necessarily work for us, and they don't work for the organizations or families as well. So then it just becomes this whole cyclical thing that attaches itself to the minority communities and say, well, it's not working for them, and why is it not working for them? And we thought that we had done all this stuff, when the reality is that we have ascribed too much to a westernized way, when we much more live in a more communal cultural existence.
Thank you. And then the last question, you touched on it sort a little bit, is like, what do you think we could do to, I guess, since this is more like a metamorphosis or like a changing of like the traditional Western like marriage and whatnot.
Mhm.
What can be done to either, I guess, not solve? The question is what would be done to solve some of these issues, but I guess what needs to be done or what could be done as like a Black community to like either like ease the change or I don't even know, but like, what do you think we should do as like a Black community to like get the sense of community and the sense of family back? Because that's what we're talking a lot about in sociology. It's how like how big of an effect family and community has on socialization of like children and people in general. What do you think we can do as like a Black community to aid this?
One, I think we need to stop being so rigid within like westernized standard norms and realize that once again we're going through as a community, as a society, there are parts of us that are changing. There are catalysts that are happening, that are expanding what it means to express love, what it means to be partnered, what it means to be in a relationship, whether it be heteronormative or same gender loving or poly, or it's like a lot going on. And so I think once we deconstruct westernized standards that have that always play into capitalism and some source or something of production, and actually allow humanity to love and experience one another within the manners that they want to. We move from just conditioning people. I'm sorry about that. Conditioning people to produce instead of actually living and adjusting and having the experiences for themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Reeves. Okay, so in my sociology class, we've been talking about like marriage and whatnot. So the first question is, what is love to you, and what do you think makes love last in a marriage?
Love to me is actually being open and honest with an individual, taking accountability for yourself and be willing to communicate with that person. And then the second question is what?
What do you think makes love last in a marriage?
Communication. Without it, no relationship will last.
Okay.
I can't read your mind.
Okay, second question is, how do you feel about the breaking down of the family, specifically in the black community, when it comes to like the lack of marriages nowadays? And do you think is any different from when you were growing up?
From past, it was more of a guaranteed the husband was going to remain with the wife. Nowadays, I think it's more or less of people not taking the better end or the bare minimum in a marriage, because it's supposed to be to death do you part. But if you cheat on me, I'm not going to be with you. If you're not honest with me, why would I want to stay behind? If your feelings change, which they can and they do, you need to be open and honest and tell that person. If you don't, it's not going to last.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of touched on it, and then the third question is, like, what do you think the causes are, I guess, and the causes of the breakdown? And do you think that has any connection to, like, we talk about religion and sociology a lot, so do you think that has any correlation with the, like, shift of religion in America?
No, I don't. Christian men have, for ages, have been cheating on their wives. I mean, Henry VIII was a prime example. I know it's America, but he's a prime example. Donald Trump is also a prime example. He got 3 wives. He was chilling with the third one when the second one was sick. So what's the difference? I see what I said.
Yep. And then the last question, like some of the I guess what could be done to solve some of these issues that we talked about when it comes to like the family and the African American community.
People need to take accountability and state what they want from the very beginning. And if those principles or ideals change while you're developing your relationship, then you need to be open and honest and communicate that with your partner. If I tell you at the very beginning when we first started talking, I like purple, but by the time we engage, it turns to blue, I need to be able to tell you that. If I don't tell you that, then you need to be questioning, do you want to be with me for the rest of your life?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. He's gonna no.
I filmed the introduction right now, right before I filmed the outro, purely because I didn't want to do the introduction before because I didn't know how like I would say the things verbatim, so I wanted to know how I would say the notes that I took on my iPad. But the little brief recap. I first interviewed Mr. Allen, who is the dorm director or like the dorm owner of my hall. I interviewed Mr. Zogui Reeves, who is from DC. I did a Zoom call because I wanted to speak to him specifically because he's a minister, so he has background in religion, and he was also my college counselor when I went to school in Washington, DC. I feel like I got a varying amount. I got a very drastic shift in viewpoints. And then, and lastly, I interviewed Miss Foster, who's a teacher here, who is younger but still is in the age range. So but so I feel like as we got younger and younger, I feel like I kind of did it like progressively, to where I put the older gentleman first, and then went to the younger and then youngest, with still within staying in that 35-year-old age limit, which was really good to see. And I'm happy that I got men and women. I had 2 men and 1 woman, which makes me happy because I want to get like I want to get like a cool swatch, a big swatch, a big range of opinions and ideas, and I didn't want to just get a misogynistic, or not misogynistic, but patriarchal view of the issues. First, we start with Mr. Allen. He is the oldest out of all of them, and you can very tell with how much he's a guy. He's a man of faith. We actually talked for the longest. We talked for 30 minutes, and even talked some after the recording ended. It was probably my favorite interview purely because we would break off into side discussions that were still connected to the main topic and connected to the sociological issues that we were speaking of, but it really just flowed like a conversation and felt really good the entire time. He's under the mindset that it's never gonna go back. Not in like a negative, pessimistic, it's never going to go back to the way it was, but just like as he can see, the marriages and the religion in the households like he had when he was growing up is never going to come back, due to the fact that a lot of the religion has left America. It wasn't even like a pessimistic view, to be honest. He even says it in the interview that he is a very positive person, but just what he is seeing, it's a lack of not only God. It's a lack of God in America, especially in these African American communities, but it's also a lack of respect from younger generations, which is deemed from the fact that we have a bunch of people who are not fit to raising parents. We talked about this. You'll see we had a nice discourse, a nice back and forth. We talked about how religion affected me, and how going to church back home affected me and whatnot. But it was a really great conversation. And I feel like if we're doing traditional like conservative to liberal, I feel like this is the most not conservative. I'm not gonna say conservative because that has a very negative connotation nowadays, especially with today's government. I'm gonna say old. He has the like oldest, more traditional. There it is, traditional mindset when it comes to these opinions. When it comes to like these issues. Okay, next is what order did I do it? Next is Mr. Reeves. He's from DC. He's a minister. He was my college and career counselor back when I was in DC. And he had a mixed bag. Because obviously he's a man of faith. He's a minister, so he obviously thought that religion not being like as prevalent in the household was a big thing, or was a defining factor, and played a lot into that. But he more so thought that like the breakdown of like divorces and whatnot, the breakdown of divorces and separations and cohabitations, he didn't see that as a negative, but he saw it as a metamorphosis of the American community, because we have this Western standard of marriage, wife and woman. He was like, when I was growing up, that's all you saw. But now it's changing, and that's not necessarily, and it's not necessarily a negative thing. It does have negative aspects that we can see the ramifications of, but it also has positive elements, and like as time goes on, things will change, and we have to work with that. he was kind of in the middle of like the old thinking, I guess, like older thinking, traditional thinking of like when it came to religion, he was very traditional, but when it came to the actual relationships and marriage parts, he really like he really focused on like the family or the community part, whether it be marriage or not. His parents eventually got divorced, he says in the interview, and he speaks a lot about his grandparents who had a very happy marriage, but he speaks more about that holistic community, especially with the church, and that's what we need to bring back more so than the actual traditional act of marriage. Lastly, we have Miss Foster. She's the youngest, like I said, 35. She's the youngest, so sorry. Coming out with something, but she's the youngest, and she had the most like liberal or new age approach. She felt as if the traditional marriage can work. It's not that it's going away, it's that like people are realizing that if they're in a marriage that they do not enjoy, if they are with someone that they don't enjoy, or something has changed since they made the marriage, they don't want to stay in it, they don't want to have to be in it. And I feel like that's a very drastically different viewpoint, especially from Mr. Allen, who was like, "Oh, we're just not getting, like, it's the marriage rate has gone down because of like the lack of religion and whatnot." But no, she is saying that people are self-actualizing and more like, "Oh, if this is not right, if I don't want to be here, I'm gonna leave." Then when it came to the religious aspect, she completely denied the implication of religion in the household, because she made the counter argument that religious men still cheat, and that religion isn't the reason why there's more divorce. There's more. It's more so that people are not just standing up for themselves, but actualizing what they want and need. Because she said, and I quote, if I go into the marriage liking purple, and I come out of it, and if I come into the relationship liking purple, but by the time we get engaged, I like blue, I should be able to communicate to that to you. And when she talks about the idea of love, she highlights the importance of communication and clear and a respectful communication, and that's what really builds that strong marriage.